Okay, this is the first class session of Unit 3. I want to start by just showing you my Canvas page for the course. So if you get into Canvas and you go to the home page, which I'm showing you right now, and you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the units listed. And here is Unit 3, the Scientific Revolution and the Enlightenment. If you click the link, Unit 3, this will take you to a particular page which gives you unit materials. So since we're doing this versus webcast, you might want to click and print out each of these links. This will give you the SI handout, the unit essay. There's one option, again, for this unit that you'll need to be tracking throughout the unit. There's the unit calendar. All of the due dates have already been put on Canvas, but you can print out the calendar if you want a hard copy. SI1 is a world map. You'll need to print that out and fill it out. I will not collect SI1. That will be a map that you'll need to do on your own and prepare for the unit exam, which will have a map portion on it. So this is your preparation tool. A cool thing about having it listed here is you could print out multiple copies and therefore practice several times rather than just filling out a map one time. That might not be enough for practice. So you can make as many copies as you want. And then today we're going to be kind of introducing the unit by going through SI number 2. And here is a PowerPoint that you can print out as your handout. Since we're not meeting in class, you can print out your handout there and track and write things down as you go, as if we were in class. So let's get into SI2. Before we get into SI2, I'm just kind of throwing up this slide. You can see they're titled Historical Trends. Just kind of capturing just kind of some themes here. In the Renaissance, we see a big emphasis on human beings. Kind of spawned a particular thought called humanism. And I just want to reconnect you with that. Might have been something that you studied last year. But the humanists putting an emphasis on humankind really create a man-centered worldview. This is a man-centered worldview absent or distancing themselves from a divine worldview, a believer in a divine being that created all things. So we start to see that the human experience starts to look at man as at the center of all things rather than God being at the center. In our unit on Reformation and religious wars, one of the kind of interesting trends that we get on there is some people that are experiencing the religious wars or witnessing the religious wars might start to ask questions like, what is true? Particularly, what is true about Christianity? If you have these Catholic Christians and these Protestant Christians slaughtering each other over this crazy century known as the Iron Century, various religious war episodes, then why do I trust that what they believe is right? I mean, don't they say love one another? Don't they say love their enemies? And yet they're slaughtering each other. How can I believe that Christianity stuff is true? That's a problem that we have in the Christian faith, to recognize that trauma even today. And then we dealt with the concept of absolutism, absolute power, one person having total power, and there's certainly political struggles back and forth between kings and parliaments and kings and noble wealthy people. But we saw that kind of as a trend, and we even discussed absolutism and power in the end of our unit in the seminar. So we started to recognize that power can be abused. And when it is abused, it tends to violate the individual rights and liberties that people aspire to. So that will become kind of a trauma and a tension that we'll start to see people in our current unit, unit number 3, start to address with different political philosophies. And the other part of our unit is the scientific revolution. And so you will start to see out of the scientific revolution, a new way of thinking, a new way of gathering data and knowledge, and it becomes very much based upon science and scientific methodology, maybe even the scientific method particularly, and we see mathematics thriving and developing, new mathematics coming online, and what that will start to create a, a path or a movement towards is that truth is identified through science. In other words, if it can't be proven scientifically, then it's not true. But you can see now there's some tensions between science and faith, because not all things of faith, Christian faith, can be proven absolutely, 100%. So you'll start to see some worldview tension between science and Christianity. So that kind of gives you an overview of where we came from with some trends and where we're going with some trends that are going to be more apparent in our current unit. All right, so SI number 2 is the ancient and medieval view of the universe. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look backwards before we kind of delve into the scientific revolution of modern European history. If I could click on this link here, and we'll just hopefully see after the commercial. We watch this. It happens every day. From a logic observation type of experience, when we see the movement of the sun here, what do we think? Now, I'm not talking from a modern perspective. I'm talking about in a pre-modern, in an ancient world, when they see this happening every day, over and over and over again, what do they think is true based upon the sunrise and the sunset each and every day? Well, it gives the appearance that the sun is moving and that the earth is stationary. So it would make a lot of sense that the ancient figures, right, the astronomers and scientists of the ancient world, such as these two guys, Aristotle and Ptolemy, would come up with ideas that the earth is at the center of the universe and that all things, including the sun, move around the earth. So these two guys are prominent historical figures in mathematics and astronomy, and using common sense observation and logic to suggest some medieval and ancient perspectives that are going to be proven wrong in the modern European era of the scientific revolution that we're going to be covering. So this is what they thought in the past, before modern European, and what we're studying is how these ideas were proven wrong and new ideas will take shape. So this is the Aristotle's diagram of the universe on the right, and you can see um, it puts Earth in the center of the universe. It has some fixed stars on there. It's got a circular orbital path of the sun around the Earth. Right to the left, we have 5 things that Aristotle said about our solar system and the universe. All right, so clearly number 1, the Earth is at the center. Number 2, that Earth is fixed. That means it's not moving, it's stationary. All other objects that we see out into the solar system and the universe are all in movement around the Earth. You see number 4, that objects in heaven are made from perfect material. There's a lot of conjecture about what made up the mass of planets and stars out in the solar system and in the universe. But you can see there they talked about it in being perfect in the sense that there was no change in the mass or in the properties and the composition of the stars and planets. And then number 5, that the universe would have a certain end beyond the fixed stars. So in other words, if you look at the diagram, it says sphere, the prime mover. That's Aristotle's language for a being that exists beyond the stars. So the sphere, the prime mover, would be heaven, if we want to put it in a Christian term. So these are the basic ideas of our solar system and the universe as given to us by the ancient thinkers. In the medieval times, right, uh, certainly the church in Europe becomes a huge influence in terms of what is believed to be right and what is believed to be wrong. And even the church has a lot to say about the earth and the solar system and the universe. So I'm going to give you some verses there that you could look up to kind of see what does Scripture say, um, and how did the medieval church at this time, it's the Catholic Church, uh, how did it teach about, or what did it teach about the earth and the solar system? There's some other verses that I have listed here if you're uh, curious further. But the clearly Christianity preaches and teaches that there's a creator being that created all things. But the scriptures, and particularly the Old Testament scriptures on the previous slide, seem to indicate that the earth is in a fixed position, right? And it's believed that the earth is in the center of all of God's creation. Why? Because the crown of his creation, human beings, are populating the earth. And there's no knowledge or proof that there's any humankind elsewhere out in creation in all of the universe. So the teaching is always that the earth is the center with God's crown of his creation, and it's sitting in a fixed position, and everything is moving around it. Um, and one of the things that you'll see in this unit is that that idea, which has been proven false in the science of the scientific revolution, will come under enormous attack by the church when scientists are preaching that the earth isn't the center, right? And in fact, uh, we see that the earth is in movement around the sun. Those writers and thinkers and scientists will be called heretics and come under great scrutiny under church leadership. So this gives you somewhat of the science slash faith tension that's going to be coming into modern European history. I wanted to define revolution because we are talking about the scientific revolution. The term revolution has different meanings depending upon its application. So here we have a French Revolution story depicted in this image. This is a fortress that's being attacked called the Bastille. We'll study the French Revolution later. Clearly, a political upheaval and overthrow, usually under force, is a revolution. We do have a revolution in terms of the Earth's pattern around the sun. This is what's going to be proven to be true in the new science of the modern European scientific revolution. That uses the word revolution. We have a sudden and vast change, kind of a simple definition, such as the change in transportation, moving away from horses and foot traffic to something that's powered by steam, in this case, an early locomotive, um, creating a vast, radical change in transportation. So various different ways to use the term revolution, and we'll use it in all of these different ways in this class. But I want to make sure that we know clearly the definition of the scientific revolution. You can see the years there, the scientific revolution certainly overlaps some of the history and times that we've studied already in our first 2 units. But in this case, we have a revolution of ideas with the coming of new and modern sciences such as physics will become a new mathematics. Basically becomes the language in which we can use uh, to observe and understand and explain the natural phenomena that goes on in our world, in the natural world, and in the universe. That of course the use of physics brings on tremendous new insight and knowledge. And then you got other things like biology and chemistry. If you're in AP chemistry right now and you're hating it, well, you can blame the scientific revolution. All of these modern sciences that we'll see come online in the modern European story begins to reject previously long-held notions from the ancient Greeks and from the Middle Ages, and certainly creates the foundation for the modern sciences that push us through the modern era. Well, guys, that's SI number 2, and introducing us into our unit. We'll continue on with the next SI in our next class session. Blessings.